Hi, my name is Bill Schaeffer, and this is an amazing true story. This is how a hummingbird saved my life. It was in the early 90s, and I worked at CST Entertainment. The company did colorization, coloring black and white movies. And we also used the process to work on commercial projects and other short video projects. You can see some of those videos here on YouTube. And in fact, I worked on colorizing Un Chien Andalou by Salvador Dali and a few notable commercials and music videos. But this happened when we were working on the Beatles anthology. And we were colorizing the clip All You Need Is Love. Now, All You Need Is Love is famous, the video, as the first transatlantic television live broadcast. Today that seems like nothing, but when it happened in 1967 or 68, it was amazing. Just like in 1972, when Elvis had his around the world live broadcast from Hawaii, that was phenomenally amazing. But we take it for granted today. Now, I was working in the art department as a designer. And I usually got the less popular projects because Jane Parks was the lead designer and she took the more fun assignments for herself. But because this was a big project, we all got involved, all the designers. And Tim Lauber, Samantha McGovern, and Rob Grinlinger were all involved in working on the design on this project. And this was a really difficult project because the original videotape was some arcane, obscure 2-inch format that had been transferred to a 1-inch format. So it was some kind of antique, ancient 2-inch PAL that had been converted to a 1-inch NTSC, and there was a lot of ghosting. In addition to some of the scenes were shot through a production window, so there were reflections on the scene, and it was low-res video to begin with. It had a small dynamic range, was very gray, and the crowd scenes were very difficult to make out what is what. Now, Jane Parks had taken all the close-ups of the Beatles, and she had left me the most difficult crowd shots and the most uninteresting orchestra shots to work on. But I gamely was, happy to be working on designing the colorizing for the Beatles anthology, All You Need Is Love. I thought it was cool to work on, and if you look at the anthology series today, you will see All You Need Is Love in color, and it was broadcast in black and white, and we, working at CST Entertainment, designed it, and then the animators animated it. And it's on the anthology in color. Now, the art design studio had 2 computers at the one end of it and a client couch. And the animators were out on the production floor in long rows of tables. And I was lucky to be working in design because it was a little more comfortable surroundings. And however, this project was difficult because Rob Grinlinger had done the crowd scenes, and this was the one really difficult shot where the camera is dollying through the crowd and there's a bunch of balloons in a bundle and a pyramid, and there's people in front of it, and as the camera moves, things move in front and behind each other, and it's difficult to see what is what because the image is ghosting and it's low res, and the balloons are all the same kind of gray color. And my job was to correct the errors in Rob's design. Now, I love Rob Grinlinger because he was enthusiastic, he loved movies, he was a performer, theater performer, and he just had an effervescent kind of love of life. But he was wacky, and he was wacko, and he did quirky things. And although the design stills looked good, there were some small errors between them. And we had 3 stills for that shot. And I was trying to correct and make sure that the same colored balloon was the same color out of this huge bundle of balloons as they're moving behind each other, and they're all the same gray level to begin with, so that when it got in production on the production floor, it could be animated smoothly and these 3 art stills would be the same. Now it was a Monday morning and I was really having difficulty with this, and the whole design team was in the design office. And we started talking about supernatural things. Meanwhile, I'm just really frustrated at trying to straighten out these art stills. And first Sam is talking about how she's been chased by a devil her whole life. And her whole life, until she met her husband, she was chased and pursued by the supernatural devil. But once she got married, then she no longer was chased by a devil. And then Jane says that when she conceived her oldest son, she saw an angel up in the air. And the angel was watching her as she was conceiving her son. And Jane talks about another time when she was in some evangelist church service, and when she came outside, she saw the whole heavens open up and saw the sky open up, and the host of heaven in all its glory was up there. Which is fine. Maybe these supernatural things happen. But at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning on Monday, when I'm very frustrated with trying to do these art stills, I don't particularly want to hear about it. And then Tim chimes in and he says that wherever he goes, lights always turn off. And that it spooked him his whole life because lights always turn off when he enters a room. And this happens to me. It used to happen to me a lot. In fact, when I was dating Lorraine, whenever I drove her home, at one street corner there was one light that would always go out. And this was many, many years ago. But I have electrical devices mysteriously go out on me also. And to hear Tim say that just really irritated me no end. And I'm just getting more and more irritated when they're just sitting around. I'm working and they're sitting around talking about all this supernatural stuff, and we're supposed to be working on the Beatles' All You Know Is Love. So I go to adjust my computer monitor, and we were working on SGI Indigo, I guess, and all of a sudden it goes bzzz, and the image and the screen disappears, and there's a purple rectangle against a black field, and inside the purple rectangle is all this noise bubbling like that. And I think, great, I've just lost all my work. Here they're talking about these stupid supernatural things, and I'm trying to work, and bzz, something happens, and the computer's down, and I've lost all my work. I've never before or seen an SGI fail where the image just turns to a purple rectangle on a black background, but that was it. I just jumped up and left the room. I needed a break. I was tired of all this supernatural talk. So we were working in a building on Green Valley Circle, and it had a courtyard with 3 layers of railings, 3 stories, and we were on the 3rd story, the top story, overlooking the courtyard. And it was a beautiful morning, like most mornings in Los Angeles are. I was on the 3rd railing on the 3rd floor, and I was just irritated. Irritated at having to correct this shot, irritated at listening to these people talk about these stupid supernatural stories, irritated at having to work for a living in the first place when I couldn't follow my dream. And as I'm sitting there just fuming, and just like looking at the stillness and beauty of the day, all of a sudden I realized that hovering right in front of my face was a hummingbird. It was like right a foot away, right between my eyes, was a hummingbird. Just sitting there hovering right in front of my eyes, just looking at me. And when I realized that hummingbird was just hovering, looking at me, all the anxiety and the stress went out of my body. I just became perfectly still and calm. And he just sat there for the longest time, just right in front of my face, just right there, just looking at me, just hovering and looking at me. And the more I looked at that hummingbird, the little hummingbird hovering in space 3 stories above the ground, the calmer and more relaxed I got. I was not stressed. And I realized You don't have to be here. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. And after I don't know how long, the hummingbird finally flew away. And I was perfectly calm, perfectly relaxed. And after a little while after that, I went inside and told my coworkers that I've been working too hard and I need to take the day off. And I went home sick. And I called in sick the next day. And Jane Parks finished all the design for All You Need Is Love, and the rest of the team finished it. And it was done. And that is the story of how a hummingbird saved my life. And from that point on, I've always taken hummingbirds to be good luck. And I've learned to talk with them, to mimic their voice, and I've started researching hummingbirds, and I find that they're just special, unique little creatures. But that one day, when the hummingbird was just hovering right in front of my face, and all the stress went out of my body, that hummingbird saved my life. And this is another true story. Thank you, and leave your comments below.